Hey everyone, welcome back to Alchemy with Zero Phase. This is Eric. Before we dive into this tutorial, I want to talk a little bit about my online prompt generation platform, XeroGen. I call this my prompt forge, as it gives users the ability to engineer their prompts from beginning to end, as well as being able to get and see example images of those by generating using my backend. There are many tools here. I have a tutorial on it. You get a free 3-day trial. After that, it's $5 a month, and you will get lost in this. Being able to generate prompts based on any theme, idea, you can copy whole paragraphs into this. You can get ideas and look for inspiration through the thousands of artists that we have examples for. You have the ability to control your color theme and get ideas from the drop-down menus. Check it out, and definitely like and subscribe our channel and this video if you like it. And now on to the tutorial. I know I did a video a little while ago about doing consistent character sheets. And one of the questions that keeps popping up is, can I use this to create LoRas? LoRas, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. And, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, yeah, of course you can. I mean, you just, once you create the image grid, you would just, split each image, create a separate image for each one, and voila, there you go. So, but I figured, there's a lot to this process, and what I decided to do is redo that video. I'm going to leave that video up. I think it's still valuable, but this will be version 2 of that video. I'm going to show you step by step how to create these consistent character grids, and whether it's cartoon characters, whether it's illustrations, whether it's photographic, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to show you how to create. I'm going to show you all the settings, and then I'm going to share with you the settings file. Well, I'm going to share the new revised version of this grid too. I've upscaled it, and I think it works a little bit better. But I'm also going to share with you, if you have the config presets extension installed, I'm going to share with you the presets that I have set up so you can just import those and start using them. All right. So we're going to start from scratch. We're going to reload this and start fresh. So give it a second here. Yes, I do have a way of splitting the images now. I've created a Python script that you can feed pretty much any size image you want into it, and what it'll do is it will, and it's designed specifically for this image grid that I'm using. So I would recommend doing that, using it for that. I may even update it later on so you can, if you have your own custom image grids, I'll set it up so that you can specify the width and height of the originating image, and how many, let's see, how do I want to put this? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just set it so you specify the number of images across and down, so that because it automatically just figures that out based on the image. So we'll just go from there. Okay, so to get started off with, we're going to load the settings and show you the settings that I'm using for this. So I've got a preset here called Character Grid High Res A Detailer, and it'll go through, and it should go through and kind of preset everything. I think the one thing I didn't save was the style, but that's not really that big of a deal. In fact, I'll just load this in here and I'll show you what this is. So this style, all it's doing is putting image grid 1.6 at the beginning. And then after that, we are typing in what it is we want to see. So the order that I'm putting this in, so is we'll have image grid 1.6, 1. Whatever you guys want to put. And then the medium. So for this one, we're just going to do photography. And then you put in what kind of character with the details of that character you want to see. Okay, so let's say we want to see a beautiful queen, and be specific. We're going to say wavy, long, wavy brown hair, and brown eyes, red lips. Okay, we're just going to leave it at that. Oh yeah, and the other thing, for character consistency, there's a few things. 3 different things that I've decided really helps with this. So first thing is name your character. Named, and you can put a name in here. I typically just put in a number. Okay, you know, sometimes just like 4 numbers. This is a little trick in Stable Diffusion to you actually, if you're rendering like a whole bunch of images at the same time, if you put named and then a name, those characters tend to look the same. And the other thing we're going to do, so a detailer should be enabled. So let's start at the top. We're going to do that. That's our prompt. Okay. All these settings should be preset in that config file. We're setting so we're using a lightning model, but I'm setting my sampling steps to 15. This seems to help with the consistency. I'm not gonna enable high-res fix yet. It causes it to take a while. It's not necessarily for the baseline of what we're trying to do. The grid image that I'm using is can't remember what the actual ratio is. I think it's like 1.66 to 1. And that's really what this comes out to, is 1280 by 768, which allows you, in the end, we're going to end up creating, that allows us to do 1-to-1 ratio result images. And I'll show you what I mean here as we get through this. One of the second things that helps with consistency is use a seed. That'll help with character consistency. Now, a detailer is going to be enabled. But the other thing that really helps with consistency here is that character grid. So we're going to enable unit 0. We're going to bring in our character grid, which is right here. So you'll recognize this from the previous video. It is a character buff of a pretty generic looking female character, but this can be used for male characters too, and I'll show you. Looking in different directions. So viewed at different angles with the head tilted up and down and straight forward. We're going to select Pixel Perfect. It's already selected on Canny. That's what this preset does, Canny. And then the control weight is 0.7 with the ending control step 0.8. This seems to work really well for what we're doing. And you can mess around with the settings as you needed, but for what I've done and how I've got this figured out, this works really well. Okay, so to get those consistent faces, name your character, use a seed, and use this character sheet. I really do believe having this character sheet with the same person in all the squares does help with that consistency. Okay, next thing, we've described the character with as many details as we feel comfortable describing. And then down here with the A detailer, we're going to enable this. Under mask pre-processing, I've expanded I've increased what's called the dilation. So this is how much area outside the mask it's going to include in the mask. Under inpainting, we're going to use a lot of the defaults, but we're using a separate width and height. Because we're going to be using an SDXL inpainting model, I want this to be set to 1024 by 1024. Now, if you want to use a different model, use 768 by 768 or 512 by 512. Either way, if you're going to use a 1.5 or 2.1 model, you might want to switch down to the 512 or 768 1-to-1 ratio. Now down here we are selecting use separate steps. Up here we're using 15. For restoring the face, we don't need that many. We're just going to use 8. And we are also going to use a different checkpoint. For some reason, the config presets doesn't save this one. It doesn't have the option for it. So we're going to, and I may look to see if that's something that could be added in. I believe it can because there's a JSON file that controls this. So I may be able to add that in. So we're going to select our inpainting model. And for this one, we're using Dreamshaper XL Lightning Inpainting. It's a wonderful inpainting model. And I'm pretty sure that's it for the A detailer stuff under inpainting under A detailer. So we can minimize all that. Now under control net, I think we've already gone through this. We've selected the image. You can allow preview if you'd like, just to be sure that it is actually detecting all the faces. Again, with all the settings I have preset on this, it should work fine. Okay, we've got all that set. We're going to go ahead and generate. and we'll be back when it gets done. Okay, so here's the resulting image. And as you can see, we have a very consistent face with the details that we described. Okay. Now this can be done for a lot of different characters, and what I would do is do the high-res fix, because what it'll do is it'll take this, double it up, and give us more detail, and the detailer will include or improve the face. So let's do another character. So instead of photography, we're going to do cartoon illustration. And honestly, we could do the same one here. So let's just do that. Okay, and as you can see, we got a very consistent character that is more cartoon illustrated. It looks a lot like the previous character too. So here's the thing. This is design where I'm designing this process to allow you to do LoRa training on consistent character faces. I'm not going to dive into the actual LoRa training itself. Okay, so as you can see, we can get consistent character faces using this prompt and using these settings. Now, I'm going to take this a step further. Now, there were some questions in regards to, okay, well, yeah, how can you use this for LoRa training? Because you're supposed to be using different clothes, different backgrounds, that kind of thing. So what we're going to do is show you how to incorporate the background too. And then I'm going to show you an extended process so that you can get multiple sheets with different backgrounds. Okay, so we're just going to put a background in here. We're going to do a sunny fantasy castle background. We'll generate that. Okay, and there we go. So as you can see, we are able to incorporate different backgrounds into each frame. This will help in your LoRa training, giving the AI some variation. You can change those backgrounds to whatever you want. In fact, let's again take this a step further. We're going to get rid of this, and I'm going to show you how we can use this same prompt and create multiple grids of that same character using different types of backgrounds. So we're going to come down here to scripts. We're going to enable prompts from file or text box. And then we're going to come over here and we can type in and list off a few different backgrounds. And the key to this is to ensure you're using the word background. So we're going to say fantasy dark castle background. And then go down to the next line. We're going to do, let's see, enchanted forest river. Let's do a rustic old English town. And then one more, we're going to do a modern city street. Okay, so one thing we got to do, grab this, put background on each one. Okay, so we have 4 here. So what it's going to do, and we need to make sure that you change this setting from start to end. We want that to be at the end of each prompt or each generation. So it's going to use this prompt and it's going to add to the end this first one for the first generation. And then for the next generation, it's going to do this one and so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead and generate all those and we'll be right back. Okay, so now we have multiple grids with different backgrounds. Let's bring this up. And as you can see, faces are very consistent. Oops, I guess that one didn't do it. I wasn't watching there. So here's this one. Again, faces are very consistent. They look like the first one. Same with this one. We get a bit of a more modern background. So this one right here that turned out this way, what you'd either want to just re-render that, or the setting that you would use to fix that would be down here under Control Net. You would just come down here and increase this. I want to say the original setting I had at was like 0.75. That helps to adjust the grid and ensure the grid shows up. Okay, now the question we have at this point is, how do we take this? What we want to do is, once we have the grids, now you can upscale this using high-res fix. What that'll do is it'll double the resolution. I know I've got mine set to 1280 by 768. And when you're doing LoRa training, you want to have images that are at minimum like 512 by 512, 768 by 768, and I guess in even some situations, 1024 by 1024. Now, I've created, however you want to upscale these, just upscale them. And I'm going to show you what I've done is I want to make sure these images are, how do I put this, a certain resolution before taking them in and splitting them. So, and I created, just so you know, I probably should have talked about this at the beginning, maybe I'll redo the intro. I've created a Python script that allows you to take an input image or input images and process them based on this character sheet. We'll split them into individual images, and it'll resize them to either 512 by 512, 768 by 768, or 1024 by 1024. Now, it'd be good to make sure your image is set to such a size that when it does that, you're not getting too many artifacts. So they stay high quality. So we're going to take one of these, and let's see, I really like this background, so we're going to use that one. We're going to come down here, we're going to eliminate these. You know what, I'm going to redo those with the higher control weight on that. See if we can get 4 of those, because I'm going to show you what this looks like when you actually do the high-res fix, and then we're going to take all those images and I'm going to show you how to split those images. So we're going to do high-res fix on these next ones, and then which will give us images that are I think it's like 2360 by 1152, which is the image size we need in order to process these at 768 by 768. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we got our images, and we're just going to scroll through these. I think we got some very good consistency with some different backgrounds, and they all look very similar. So this would be great. Okay. Now the question you're probably asking is, how do we take these image sheets, these character sheets, and convert them into individual 512 by 512 or 768 by 768? You can take them into GIMP, Photoshop, whatever, cut them out individually. That is incredibly tedious, and I'm not one for tedious. I prefer something fast and simple. So I've developed a Python script that, when run, it checks for the dependencies, installs them, and then will run a interface that will allow you to select multiple images. I'll show you here real quick how this is done. Okay, so what I've done is I've used the browse option here to browse out to where I've saved these images. And just for simplicity, I just saved them into the root of this script that I've done. I call it Splitter. As you can see, Splitter 2 is the second version of it. And so in here, I'll make this file, depending on, trying to decide how to make this available, probably just put it in my Google Share. So if you want to go to there, you can. And just as a little side note, a good way to support my channel is, I have a Patreon, but honestly, it would be better and you get more out of it if you bought a subscription to my prompt generator. It would be just as much as doing a Patreon. It's $5 a month, and then you get something out of it. You get a great prompt generator, allows you to generate images and engineer your prompts properly. I'll show that to you here in the end. So I just selected the images here, and they show up here. And then you can pick your size that you want. And these are designed for the 768 by 768. And it shouldn't matter. You can actually select 1024 by 1024. It'll automatically upscale them. Now, I say upscale, it resizes them. It doesn't actually upscale. I apologize. Shouldn't have used that word. It resizes each image to 1024 by 1024. Or you can resize them down to 512 by 512. Okay. I'm going to do 768 by 768. Now you can name your folder. If you don't name it, I think what it does is it creates a folder with the name of the first image. But we're just going to go testing and start processing. It's very quick. Once it's done, it actually, I'll bring it up here, creates a folder in the root of wherever you're running the script. And as you can see, it does a beautiful job extracting those images, naming the images with the file name so you can see them rotate. I think this is going to be very useful for people who are trying to create these data sets. I know that a lot of people want to do whole body data sets. I got another video for the whole body one, and I think I could probably modify this script so that it can take into account different sizes. I may even set it up so you can designate how many cells are in your grid and how to evenly distribute that. So I'll get that all set up. So as you can see, we were able to create a pretty large data set with this particular character. And you can use that in your LoRa training. So let's go through a couple more. We're going to do some photography now. Let's do this. Photography. Young. Hispanic man. Short black hair. Smile. And brown eyes. We're going to come down here and change the backgrounds. We want, let's grab this here. Modern city. Countryside. And I don't know. Jungle. Let's just do those three. So, just as a review, we've designated what it is we want to see here. We can actually put in like clothing too. Let's say leather. Make sure you specify specific. Well, you can be as specific as you want. Sometimes it's great to let it have variance. We're going to say black leather jacket. Okay, and then down here we got our sampling step set to 15. Higher res fix is turned on at 1280 by 768. You can set this to whatever you want, and if you're using my image splitter, it kind of just uses whatever image size you bring into it. Should work fine. Config scale is 3. We are using a lightning model for the base model. Setting a seed. Oh yeah, let's man named. Just gonna throw a number in there. We're gonna change the seed on this too, just to throw something else in there. Under a detailer, we're dilating the mask just a little bit. Normally this is set to default of 4. We've turned it up to 12. Under in painting, you can increase mask, but I think the default's fine. All these defaults are fine. All we're doing is we're using a separate width and height of 1024 by 1024. Separate steps of 8 because we're using a lightning model. Want it to do it a little quicker. And 8 steps is great. It does a great job with that. And then using a separate checkpoint, we're using an in-paint checkpoint. Everything else is default under a detailer. And then under control net, we're using our control image. pixel perfect. Preview if you want. Canny. Just accept the default preprocessor model. 0.75 on control weight. 0.8 here under ending control step. That just basically means that 80% through, it kind of gives the AI the ability to do what it wants with the image. I know at 80% it's not going to do much after 80%, but I think it does help with refining the image a little bit, getting rid of any artifacts. And then everything else is default. We'll go ahead and render that and come back when we're done. Now we'll go through the process of splitting it one more time. Okay, so as you can see, we got the images back. Let's go ahead and review them. These are amazing. Like, the consistency is awesome. The fact it gives it a different background is awesome. This one didn't turn out like, I mean, the background didn't come in the way I thought, but it's still the same person. Again, still the same person, just a different background. So there you go. Let's take these and move them over into the folder, and we'll run it through the splitter again. Okay, I've saved those out. Let's bring up the splitter, and we're going to browse out and select those images. Okay, I've got those images selected. We're going to put this into a different folder called, I don't know, Hispanic Man. Process those at 768 by 768. And we have our folder. There you go. Stop motion animation. So if we go in here and just hover over, you can see it says 768 by 768. They are JPEG files. We'll be developing that splitter software, Python script, whatever, as we go, or as I work on this, because I want it to be able to handle different sized grids. Potentially, like the one video I had, I think it was a 3 or 4 wide grid for the full body characters. So we're going to want to make sure we do that one as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'll do an update on the full body character. It'll probably be just a real short tutorial. So, in the similar fashion as this one, but even shorter, since you'll already be familiar with this one, hopefully. And go from there. So just one more thing. When you're working with this down here and you're wanting to create different backgrounds, also take into consideration that you could put in different clothing here. Meaning, if I wanted this person to be wearing, let's say this is a city, so wearing, we'll say the black leather. No, they're going to say wearing a red suit coat. And then this one right here, we're going to say he's wearing a flannel shirt. And then the jungle, we're going to say a, I don't know, red tank top. And when you put those in there like that, that way you're getting different clothing as well. So with those different backgrounds. And you'll take that into consideration. So you'd probably remove this right here. And you could even go so far as even to change, like, put the brown eyes and black hair, those characters, but like smile, you could put that in the down here as well and say maybe he's frowning. And in this one right here, he's smiling. And this one right here, he's yelling. And then you'll get different emotional states as well. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to make the config preset JSON file available along with the settings file. Okay, there's 2 different files here. If you are currently using config presets, you may not want to put these in there, because if you copy and paste these into the extension folder for config preset, it will overwrite that and you'll lose your existing config presets. So just take that into consideration. I will make these splitter files, these splitter Python and batch file. If you're using Windows, it makes it easier. You can just run that. If you're using Linux or whatever, I think this should still run and on your system. Okay, and then I'll make sure the new grid file is available as well. I'm going to put that under my Google Share, so share.zerophase.com. You'll go into my Google Share, and I'll have a folder. We'll call it Splitter, and I'll make all this available for you. If you like this video, definitely subscribe, like the video, share it. The first version of this video did really well. I think a lot of people are very interested in being able to create these consistent characters for LoRa's and for other things as well. So I really hope this was helpful, and we'll talk to you all later.